You started using BARF because you love your dog or cat, but is it doing it right? Thousands of owners make serious mistakes, even with the best intentions. Contaminated meats, wrong proportions, dangerous bones, poorly administered supplements, and ignored diagnoses are just the beginning. And when the symptoms appear, often it is already too late. In the quest to offer the best for their dogs and cats, many tutors make the decision to abandon industrialized food and immerse themselves in the universe of natural food. BARF, an acronym for biologically appropriate raw food, has gained ground as a healthy alternative, closer to what animals would eat in their wild state. But along with the real benefits, a silent problem has emerged: false security. And that's precisely when many tutors, with the best intentions in the world, start making mistakes that put the health, and even the lives, of their four-legged companions at risk. The first big mistake is to treat BARF as a simple mixture of meats and vegetables. It is not. BARF is a complete and balanced food system which requires precise calculation of nutrients, exact proportions between the types of meat, bones, offal, and vegetables. When an owner decides to start from scratch, improvising based on short videos or generic formulas, he may be feeding his animal an unbalanced menu with excess phosphorus, calcium deficiency, excess fat-soluble vitamins, and often without the slightest notion of digestibility. There are recorded cases of dogs that, within a few weeks, developed bone changes due to calcium deficiency, a condition that can be irreversible. Cats, on the other hand, are even more sensitive. Deficiencies in taurine, vitamin A, or essential fatty acids can lead to blindness, cardiomyopathy, and immune breakdown. This can all happen even when the animal appears to be healthy in the first months of transition. The second critical mistake is to offer raw meat from any source without sanitary control. Not all meat bought at a butcher shop or market is safe to be consumed raw by animals. Bacteria like Salmonella and E. Coli may not affect dogs and cats in the same way that humans do, but that doesn't mean they're harmless. Immunosuppressed animals, puppies, and the elderly are especially vulnerable, and even when they don't get sick, they can become silent carriers, spreading pathogens throughout the home and contaminating other pets, children, and even tutors. In addition, there is a risk of parasites. Raw meats that have not been previously frozen at suitable temperatures can carry viable forms of Toxoplasma gondii, Taenia spp, Neospora, among others. And make no mistake, dogs and cats are perfect hosts for many of these parasites. The absence of visible symptoms does not mean the absence of infection. Therefore, a strict freezing protocol and the use of meats from reliable suppliers are non-negotiable steps. Another common and dangerous mistake is the incorrect supply of bones. Yes, BARF includes raw bones as a fundamental part of the diet, mainly for its contribution of calcium and phosphorus. But not every bone is safe. Cooked bones should never be offered. They become brittle, sharp, and can perforate the esophagus, stomach, or intestine. On the other hand, very large raw bones, such as from shank or beef ribs, also pose a risk, as they can cause severe dental fractures or impaction in the gastrointestinal tract. The ideal is to offer raw, fleshy bones appropriate for the size of the animal: chicken neck, wings, carcasses, gizzards with soft bone, all proportional to the size of the mouth and the pet's chewing capacity, and always under supervision. It is not enough to leave the animal in the corner with the bone and leave the room. Obstructions, choking, and fractures happen in seconds. Another frequent mistake is the inclusion of toxic ingredients due to misinformation. Many tutors, when they want to vary the menu or enrich the diet, end up adding foods that are potentially toxic to dogs and cats. Onions, garlic, grapes, avocados, nutmeg, chocolate, and even raw potatoes can cause everything from vomiting and diarrhea to kidney or neurological failure. Garlic poisoning, for example, may seem mild at first, but it progresses to hemolytic anemia within a few days, a serious and in some cases fatal condition. The desire to please and the association with what is healthy for humans cannot be the criterion for deciding what goes on a dog's or cat's plate. Their digestive physiology is different. What is good for us can kill them. And there is still a mistake as subtle as it is dangerous: the use of recipes copied from the internet without individual adjustments. Each animal has unique needs. A growing puppy needs totally different proportions than a sedentary senior dog. A cat with a predisposition to urinary stones should have its menu adjusted to control urinary pH, avoid excess specific minerals, and maintain high moisture intake. An athletic dog needs more fat and bioavailable protein, while an obese one requires precise calorie restriction, without losing essential nutrients. Copying recipes from social media groups or videos from influencers who are not veterinary nutritionists may seem harmless, but it is not. It's like giving medicine without a prescription. It can work in a case and be catastrophic in another. Finally, there's the silent mistake: not following up. Starting BARF without consulting a trained professional, without performing prior exams, and without regular health monitoring is a high risk. Only a complete checkup allows you to assess whether the animal is suitable for the raw diet, if there are pre-existing metabolic alterations, if there are parasites, silent inflammations, or deficiencies that need to be corrected before the transition. The tutor who does not measure, does not calculate, and does not monitor, he is just betting on luck. And when luck runs out, the animal suffers. Even after the transition to BARF is successfully completed, many tutors relax. They think that because the animal is eating well with regular feces and apparently normal exams, everything is under control. But it is exactly at this point that a new type of error begins to emerge, the error of poorly done maintenance. And this is one of the most dangerous, because it disguises itself as routine. The first sign is the excessive repetition of ingredients. Many tutors create an initial menu with 3 or 4 types of protein and end up maintaining the same structure for months or even years. This leads to what veterinary nutritionists call a cumulative imbalance. That is, a diet that is apparently balanced in the short term, but which, due to lack of variety, begins to generate an excess of certain minerals and a chronic deficiency of others, often without visible signs. For example, chicken and beef liver are commonly used ingredients in homemade BARF, but if offered constantly, they can cause vitamin A overload, which leads to abnormal soft tissue calcification and severe joint problems in dogs and cats. On the other hand, the excess of boneless chicken breast generates a mismatch between calcium and phosphorus, promoting silent bone demineralization, something especially serious in puppies and pregnant females. Another serious maintenance mistake is not updating the quantities as the animal ages, gains weight, loses weight, or changes its lifestyle. A dog that was a puppy a year ago and is now an adult cannot continue with the same caloric ratios or protein levels. A neutered and sedentary cat should not consume the same energy density as a whole and active cat. The absence of adjustments causes obesity, sarcopenia, renal, and hepatic overload, all due to the lack of simple nutritional monitoring over time. And the most alarming, some owners do not realize that the animal already shows mild clinical signs, such as increased thirst, apathy, changes in coat or feces, and associate this with breed behavior or normal temperament, when, in fact, they are silent alerts that something in the diet is out of balance. One of the most frequent mistakes in the practice of BARF is negligence with the hygiene of utensils. Freezing meat correctly is a crucial step, but it doesn't do any good if the countertop, jars, boards, and hands of the owner are contaminated. The preparation environment needs to be sanitized with the same seriousness as a professional kitchen, because there you are not cooking, you are handling raw meat. And this requires a daily protocol: separate utensils for pets, disinfection with safe products, care with sink sponges, and proper storage. In fact, many tutors do not know that there are wooden utensils and plastic pots that, over time, form invisible microcracks that harbor colonies of bacteria. Therefore, the periodic replacement of these items is a neglected safety measure. Another critical point, and little discussed, is the error in the administration of supplements. Many tutors start BARF with homemade formulas and soon realize that they need to supplement with oils, minerals, or vitamins, but they do so without criteria, often acquiring products for humans or manipulated on their own. The result is an elevated risk of chronic poisoning. For example, fish oil supplementation may be beneficial, but in excess, it causes diarrhea, fatty acid imbalance, and cellular oxidation. Zinc, on the other hand, in high doses, interferes with the absorption of copper. And vitamin D, if manipulated in the wrong amounts, can lead to calcification of kidneys, blood vessels, and even death. Supplements should only be used under the guidance of a veterinary nutritionist, with formulas adjusted to the total menu and the pet's individual metabolism. It is not about boosting the diet, but about balancing what is already present in natural foods, correcting only what is necessary. In addition, many tutors ignore a fundamental pillar of the correct practice of BARF: periodic reassessment by laboratory tests. It is not enough to observe the coat or the appetite. Dogs and cats can maintain a healthy appearance even with silent cases of hyperphosphatemia, liver dysfunctions, metabolic acidosis, or endocrine deficiencies. Blood and urine tests and body composition assessment should be performed at least every 6 months in healthy animals, and more frequently in special cases. Another recurring mistake, especially with cats, is to force the food transition abruptly without respecting the selective and sensitive nature of felines. Cats can develop a lasting aversion to certain foods if the change is made without gradual adaptation. This leads to total refusal of raw food, episodes of vomiting due to digestive stress, or worse, hepatic lipidosis in cases of prolonged fasting. This condition is extremely dangerous and can quickly evolve into a fatal condition. Therefore, the introduction of BARF in cats must follow specific protocols: gradual presentation of new foods, texture compatible with what the cat already accepts, positive stimuli associated with the meal, and above all, monitoring of the actual intake. Never assume that he will eat when he is hungry. The mistake is not in trying BARF. It is in underestimating the complexity of animal nutrition. Because the body of a dog or cat does not understand good intentions, it only responds to biology. And when biology is ignored, the consequences are inevitable, silent at first, irreversible later. Among all the mistakes made in natural food, perhaps the most invisible and at the same time the most dangerous is that of blind trust. Trust that it has always worked, that my pet has never complained, that he looks healthy, or that everyone in the WhatsApp group does the same. This self-confidence is not born of negligence, but of love, of a sincere desire to do the best. But the animal's body does not recognize the intention. He responds only to what he receives, in time, in silence, in the tissues, in the exams, in the organs that fail before their time. Therefore, the biggest success that a tutor can have in BARF is not to put together a beautiful menu. It is knowing where your own limits are and seeking specialized help. Animal nutrition is not home cooking. It's science. And like any science, it requires constant study, monitoring, and adaptation. Today, one of the biggest causes of failures in BARF is the absence of long-term planning. The tutor starts enthusiastic, researches some sources, buys ingredients, follows a recipe. In the first few months, the results look excellent. Firm stools, shiny coat, high energy. But without constant review, the same menu that once strengthened can slowly begin to erode the balance of the pet's body. Lack of protein turnover, absence of adequate fiber, underdosing or overdosing of vitamins and minerals, and even imbalances between fat types. All these factors accumulate effects, day after day, until they become diseases. And when clinical signs appear, such as abnormal tiredness, behavioral changes, persistent itching, or weight loss, the owner often does not associate it with diet. Another common mistake, especially in urban environments, is not considering the quality of the water offered to the pet in the context of BARF. A raw diet requires excellent digestion, and this depends directly on the gut microbial environment. When the water supplied has excess chlorine, metal residues, or unbalanced pH, it interferes with the animal's microbiome. And an unbalanced intestine does not absorb nutrients well, generates gas, fermentation, episodes of diarrhea or constipation, and, in the long term, chronic inflammation. Yes, even water directly influences the success of the diet. Another detail often ignored is the role of food temperature at the time of offering. Food offered directly from the freezer or excessively cold can cause gastric discomfort, especially in animals with digestive sensitivity. The ideal is always to offer food slightly fresh, at room temperature or warm, without cooking, to ensure better acceptance and digestion. Natural food also requires attention to the life cycle. When a pet ages, it doesn't just need fewer calories, it needs more bioavailability. Fast-absorbing meats, less oxidized fat, minerals in chelated form, fibers that modulate the intestine without causing excessive fermentation. A senior dog that follows the same menu as the 2-year-old, without fine-tuning, may be being underfed, even eating well. And if the pet undergoes surgery, enters treatment with antibiotics, has hormonal changes, or develops food intolerances, the diet needs to be reformulated. BARF is not fixed. It is a living organism which grows, adapts, and transforms with the animal's body. But all this is only possible with guidance. And this is where the most important choice of the tutor comes in, looking for professionals who really understand natural raw nutrition. A general practitioner veterinarian is not enough. It is necessary to have a professional with practical experience in BARF formulations, who understands the specific metabolism of dogs and cats, who knows how to interpret exams in a functional way, and who is willing to monitor each stage of the pet's life. And finally, the most human mistake of all, thinking that it's too late to correct it. Right. Even animals that have spent years eating feed can benefit from the correct transition to BARF. Even pets that have had imbalances can recover with a well-conducted nutritional plan. Even tutors who made mistakes due to lack of knowledge can start over with more awareness, more security, and more true confidence. Because BARF, done with knowledge, is one of the most profound ways to show love. It's not about food, it's about commitment. Commitment to real health, to longevity, to the quality of vida. Calm, every step, every lick, every grateful look that says, I'm fine because you took care of it right. Avoiding mistakes in BARF does not require perfection. It demands attention. And when there is doubt, the best answer will always be, study more, ask more, make fewer mistakes. Because your dog or your cat can't review what you put on their plate. They can only trust. And that confidence, it cannot be broken.